KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to another episode of The Cocktail Lounge. I am your hostess with the mostest, Aggie, and with me as always is the ever suave, affable, and quaffable co-host, Brad Slager. How are you doing this evening, Brad?
Oh, you're good. I'm worn out, actually. It has been a hectic hellstorm of a week, and it's not stopping apparently. So it's
I'm assuming you mean as to everything that has been going on inside our country's politics. But in addition to that, everybody's on summer vacation over at your house. So I'm sure that has
there's
contributed.
So much going on. Whatever. Yeah, I know. It's just it's just nonstop. And I'm doing okay, family wise and stuff here. They're mostly occupying themselves and distracting me plenty, and I'm doing good there. But man, holy crap, what is it? We're not in a news cycle. We are in a news peloton. See what I did?
Yes,
there?
it does seem like a spin. It's a spin class gone hell haywire.
Literally, it's been nonstop. This is the amazing thing. If you just look at all of the major crap that's gone on, the Trump shooting, the RNC convention, and then we had all kinds of the upheaval in the White House, and then we had Joe Biden swearing, "I'm not quitting, you sons of bitches," shaking his fist like Grandpa Simpson at everybody in the Democrat Party. And then all of a sudden, I love the fact that he goes from one day saying, "You're never getting me out of here. It's going to take an act of God." Next day, Biden has COVID, and we haven't seen him since. And then days later, the announcement comes. He's stepping down from the campaign, and Kamala's taken over, and the media has just been in this rapturous orgasm, and I mean that literally, ever since her announcement. Oh, and on top of that, why don't we just have a hearing with this Secret Service director? Holy crap, this woman. Thankfully, she came to her senses and quit today. But literally every single damn day. And even some of the stories themselves, if you watch them, change almost hourly. And it's just holy. All of this has taken place within the span of 10 days, by the way.
I had to turn off the notifications from CNN and Fox News and another news outlet because in the middle of the night, I kept getting dinged. Now, I leave my phone in the kitchen. I don't sleep with my phone beside me. I used to when a friend of mine, his mother was in the hospital. So I kept the phone by my bedside in order to get updates because of that. But most of the time, I just keep it in the kitchen because I figured if anybody's going to call me, they'll call me. If I don't pick up, they'll call my husband, and his phone is right next to us. So. And most of the time, if it's an emergency, he gets a call first anyway. So I just leave it, but I could hear it going off in the kitchen. And I said, okay, this is just not going to work for me. Not this month. So I had to shut down all the notifications because it was getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it's July has taken about a year and a half so far. It's just incessant, and me being cursed like I am covering the media, they have just been unhinged the entire time. It has been glorious work on that. They're not getting any better. The politics aren't getting any better. I'm laughing that I'm sitting here for the last day, since Sunday night basically. It's like, well, you just know that media is going out and getting their Kamala tattoos tonight. They're getting ready for this nonsense. Because I said directly, even before the switchover, I think Friday or Saturday, I said, look at the way they treated J.D. Vance during the convention. I mean, they were just muckraking through all of this guy's past, and he's not a real hillbilly. And I mean, this guy grew up in a wooden shack, and his mother didn't feed him. I think this guy knows hard scrabble, and he's done just about every damn thing in life to be impressed
Did
with.
they not make a movie out of his book? I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing is he went into the Marines and has served this country in an honorable fashion. He's a published author. He started his own company that has been vastly successful. His book was optioned into a movie by Ron Howard, no less. Ran for office and successfully did that. Now he's nominated for vice president. Okay, this guy literally came out of nowhere and, is, as they say, within a heartbeat of the Oval Office. And hell of a story. He's not real. This son of a bitch. The press has just been all over him, which we knew would happen. And I said, let's just see if...
one of the things they've been using is the his prior views on President Trump, and they're using those words against him. And it has been... And I'm like, the same people that say, hey, people can change are telling me that people cannot change. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, note this, they're gonna pull that out of their hat and say, oh, he once slammed Trump. It's like, great. Okay. Kamala once said that Joe Biden was a heartfelt racist. I mean, live on a stage in front of America.
Yeah, I believe she called him a racist and sexist. I think it was both terms. And I was like, ooh, damn, she called him out, and she was right. Hard. Yeah, I'm not taking that away from her. I mean,
it's perfectly okay for her to serve in his cabinet. That's cool, right? But now J.D. Vance isn't a qualified VP because 8 years ago he was retweeting Never Trumpers or something. It's stupid stuff.
It is.
But I said they're not going to do anything of the sort to Kamala, or I'm sorry, Kamala, because if I say it the other way, I'm racist apparently.
What?
Despite the fact that I've heard reporters say it both ways. The funniest was on Morning Joe.
I don't refer. I'll be honest. I don't refer to her by her first name anymore. I'm referring to her by her last name, simply because I refer to everybody else by their last name. And
yeah,
I figured I might as well just be,
Well, see, my problem is I spent like the first couple of years getting her pronunciation right. Kamala. Okay, Kamala. What? Kamala. And now that
the thing is, her mother has said it both ways. Her own mom. I'm like,
I'm watching Morning Joe because masochist that I am, and Mika Brzezinski's up there's like, I watch these disgusting Republicans up on stage mispronouncing her name and calling her Kamala instead of Kamala or the other way around, whatever the freak it is. And then she turns to her panel, and Heinrich or whoever the hell it was exactly said it the same way as the Republicans that she was scorching. It's like, you dumbasses. I'm sorry, Mika, racist, right next to you. Call his ass out. He's white. He's mispronouncing her name. Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. He did it by accident. The GOP does it intentionally, I guess is the message.
And this is why I'm like, you know what? If people are going to call me out on pronunciation, and I admittedly, I do mispronounce certain words on occasion. I'm still, believe it or not, I'm still learning English. I mean, he keeps throwing me curveballs ever since I was freaking 10 years old when I started learning this stupid language. But, because there are several different ways of pronouncing her first name, and people started getting upset with mispronunciation, I just figured I can't mess up Harris, for one thing. And for another, if I refer to Trump and Biden and Vance, then I should refer to her as Harris. I mean, it's only fair. So
I'm just going to go ahead.
I did that. And some guy called me out. It's like, oh, so now you're just relegating her to just her last name. I'm like, I can't win. Nobody can win. Either if I call her by her first name, they get mad at me because it's disrespectful or I'm mispronouncing it or whatever. If I call her by her last name, oh, that's disrespectful too because her brand is her first name. And I'm like, You realize she's a politician. She should have no brand. Okay.
I thought her brand was heels up. Oh wait.
I'll just play it safe and refer to her as VPK. How about that? That works for me. But what cracks me up too is the same people that are bitching about Kamala or Kamala. They're perfectly comfortable pronouncing Hitler correctly when they talk about Trump. So that's that's not as bad, apparently.
No, apparently not.
But I've been marveling at the coverage because she comes out yesterday with her first speech. I guess, like her introduction to the Democrats or something. And she's out there yammering away and hit Donald Trump hard, like you expect. I've prosecuted sexist, and he's been convicted of sexism. Yeah, I've convicted tax cheats, and he's convicted of tax cheats. That kind of bullshit. But she's out there doing that routine, and I mean, hitting them hard. That's what you do. It's a campaign, and the press is just over the moon. Oh my god!
Oh, they've been eating this fabulous. Up so much.
Look at what she's doing, and
same afternoon, licking the plate.
Exact same afternoon, J.D. Vance is giving a stump speech. Mm-hmm. And Garrett Hackey from NBC News, same network I was watching her speech on, by the way. I just thought it was on in the background. NBC Now I had on, I think. So he's like, here I am at Trump headquarters. J.D. Vance is on the stage. And oh my God. He was critical of Kamala and he attacked her and he said bad stuff. And it was like, you dumb shit. So Kamala could beat the hell out of Trump and you're all just weeping and wetting yourselves and having a great time. But if J.D. Vance is critical of Kamala Harris, it's like, oh, disgusting attack from the Democrats. Oh, man, just going after her like this is so just disrespectful and disgusting. I mean, what the hell? It's a campaign. It's politics. You do that. You criticize your opponent. Oh, it's disgraceful.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. She is not at the risk of using a term that is associated with half of her ancestry, untouchable. Okay?
Yeah,
she's not.
That's the other thing too. Who was it? Maria Gay or one of the, she's like a lesser Joy Reid, but she still finds racism in so much. And there she is. She's like, oh, just the way they're going after her is so racist. She accused somebody, I think it was J.D. Vance, actually. He criticized Harris about something. And then Gay said, he basically called her uppity. And we know uppity is racist. Well,
what?
He didn't.
Uppity is racist?
Oh, yeah. They've been trying that for years.
Wow.
If you call a woman uppity, it's okay. Call a black woman uppity, though, put on your hood. That's their thinking. But he didn't say it. She was accusing him of, I guess, thinking it, and therefore he was racist because of her interpretation of things. But I'm sitting here saying, you just got done telling us that VPK is this fantastic powerhouse of a speaker and can hold her own and defend herself against anybody. And then if you dare criticize her, you're a sexist racist. It's so stupid, all of it. It's just, you're not allowed to criticize her. Can I bring up her record? Oh, you hateful, disgusting pig. Okay, what about what she did in California when she was arresting black people and putting them in jail? It's like, that's just racist of you to point that facts out. And that's all they got. You're not allowed to point out her record at all.
Even when, and we all remember Tulsi Gabbard actually owning her during the debates, and when she pointed out how her the way she used laws when she was an AG over here in California, it was disproportionate against people of color. And I mean, this is something that everybody remembers and knows. And to bring that up now, it's racist against her. And I'm like, but wait a minute, she was being racist against them. Okay. So and the whole thing is like, oh, well, what part am I being racist against? Because she's mostly from Hindu origin. Her mother is Indian. She's Hindu. So she's half Hindu. Her father has some African. He's Bahamian or Jamaican. I'm not sure. I've seen records of both,
Oh, I've always heard Jamaica.
but he's only part African. So for her, it has been extremely disingenuous for her to actually be, and she never corrects the record when people call her the first Black vice president or the first Black woman, this or that. She never corrects that record. And it would have been better had she actually corrected that. I said, actually, my mother is Hindu. I am half Hindu. And so I recognize that part of my heritage, mostly simply because it's the more of me, you know. And so it was, you know, it's kind of like my niece who is she's half Puerto Rican and half, you know, I guess Irish American. And then her daughter is half African American and then a quarter Puerto Rican and a quarter Irish via her mother.
I think
So,
at that point you could just describe them as a rescue.
you know, well, actually, my niece did that. It was so funny. And my sister blew her gasket, but whatever. So anyway, but you know, it's like if you're going to go by, you know, taking the Elizabeth Warren effect, if you're going to go by percentages, she is not mostly Black. She's actually mostly Hindu and should have actually accentuated that throughout her career. And it would have still worked for her. But she never did that. She actually let people believe that she was mostly African American, and she's not. And now there are some people that are starting to, you know, they say she's the first African American this, and I'm like, but she's not. You know, let's give credit to her mother because that's where she got most of her, you know, genealogy from. And people actually have called me a liar. I've actually had to post the stupid Wikipedia page of Kamala Harris to show that her mother is Indian, fully so. And they're like, "What? When did that happen? I don't know. Birth."
Yeah. I'm going to need a 23andMe before I think about voting for her. Does she represent me or not? It's like, what about, I don't know, issues, policies, agenda? Any of that come into play, or is it just simply
that's it, you know, and that is something that
boxes?
We should learn from other countries. And I mean, look at Peru, just not too long ago had a Japanese prime minister.
How about that?
His parents were Japanese and he was born in Peru and raised there, spoke Spanish and everything, but he was Japanese by blood. Corrupt as fuck, but that's another story. But the thing is, you know, he was Japanese and people recognized that he was Japanese. He didn't try to pass for anything else. But he grew up there. And so he was a Peruvian citizen and all that stuff, you know, blah, 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 and everything. And I was very surprised to find that Peru has a very large Japanese population. But yeah, that's for another time. But, you know, several countries do have that. So Salvador right now.
Too is, you know, if that takes place here, we're not allowed to acknowledge that. You're not allowed to recognize, like, oh, he's clearly Asian. You disgusting, hateful. It's like, you're telling me he's not Asian. You know, I mean, I'm sorry. It just 100% Japanese. I think I'm on safe ground with this one. Oh, you disgusting pig.
I know. It's just incredibly weird. But for me, it has been so disingenuous that she, all of her life, let people believe that she was mostly African American. And now that she is going to be completely in the spotlight, you know, people are starting to realize, well, wait a minute. Why did she let us believe this? And then she'll come out and say, you know, I honor my mom. I honor my dad. I just identify as an American. Watch for this. It's coming. It's coming. She's going to be saying something like that, to that effect. And I'm like, yeah, but you had the chance early on to set the record straight, because for over a decade, you've identified as African American, and you let people identify you as such. It's like me identifying as Taino. I do have Taino blood in me. I've never actually registered, but I can register with the Taino um, registry in Puerto Rico. But it's not mostly me. I'm mostly, when you look at my genealogy, I'm mostly Spanish. So, but I identify as Puerto Rican, obviously, because that's where I was born. And
So, do
so,
you have any? Do you have any white in you?
well, the Spanish are considered white. This is
'Cause I
the
was gonna
dirty
say-
little secret.
I was then going to say, do you want some? That'll work. Had to do it. Had to do it. It was inevitable. It was just
Oh my goodness.
the fruit was just hanging right there. I had to go for it.
But it's just, as when I did the whole genealogy thing and everything, it turned out that I had a pretty even keel of my background. So it was fully 1/3 of everything. So technically the white part, the Spanish part, is kind of on the lower end of the other two, because the other two are mestizo, African, and Taino. So I thought
This
that
is
was
getting
pretty
to the
interesting.
point. Yeah, we're almost vetting our candidates now the same way that the
Yeah.
Native American tribes do to see if you qualify for casino money. Well, I've got
Pretty
like
much.
24th, and therefore I should get a check every month. Okay, I'm just I tire of it so much because I just don't give a damn. I don't care that she's black. I don't care that she's a woman. The only time I really care about a race involving a politician is if it's a Republican. Like, let's just say Tim Scott. I almost want to say thank God, because now at least race is going to come up. But nope, sure enough, there's Joy Reid. And she has said some of the most disgusting things about Tim Scott. It's just like, it's impossible to get away from this, isn't it? It's just
What I couldn't believe was that this woman literally had Trump's hairdo for a while, and then she got called on it. I'm like, you're calling everybody racist, and yet you have a white man's hairdo on your head.
appropriating our follicles.
It was sad. It was sad.
Somebody the other day, I don't know if she wasn't going to the convention because MSNBC wasn't actually there. Did you see that? They did their panel, and you're overlooking the arena floor and the convention space and all of that, and then we find out
it was a screen.
they had a green screen. They were in New York.
They weren't there.
And somebody found, I guess, the skybox where MSNBC was broadcasting from, and it was like the size of a bedroom. It was tiny. The guys are all cramped in there, and they're filming the convention for them to beam it back to New York and broad screen it. I mean, the screen in New York was larger than the suite that these guys were shooting in. It was pathetic. And then the whole time is, we're fact checking the Republicans. It's like, yeah, how about yourselves? Because you're lying to the audience as if you're there. It
has been. I gotta say, the RNC was great, because only Trump would ever think to accept a nomination in a building that actually sports his own hairdo. And I could not believe it when I somebody said that. So I went and did a quick search of the building, and sure enough, it had a Trump hairdo. And I'm like, that's a brand. That's a brand. That hairdo is a brand.
Indeed. But yeah, and this is all just the minimum of it so far. We also had the Secret Service director coming under fire.
Oh, that was such a mess.
Holy cow. This was an 18-wheeler going wheels up in a ditch.
It jackknifed first, and then it went tits up. Wheels up. Wheels up. Sorry.
It was... I couldn't believe this woman went 4.5 hours in front of Congress, because I couldn't even last that long on this, and I was reveling in it. But she was getting lit up from both parties, and it was amazing to see. Like, I don't think there was a single person in there that was on her side.
There were a couple. There was one that was actually trying, I forget his name, but he was trying to get her to admit that too many guns makes her work harder.
Well, no, they were, there were a couple using the platform to get an agenda out there.
Yeah, but this guy was actually trying to help her by trying to get her to say what he was repeating, and she just would not do it because she could not catch on, and he just finally gave up. But there were, I could see where several Democrats were grilling her, and they were extremely good at it. I mean, they went after her, and it was a sight to behold. I never thought. There was one that said, well, we just caught you in perjury, so I'm going to be telling him to bring perjury charges against you, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I saw. I think
I rewound that like 5 times because it was so good.
Well, that was also the freshman from Florida. I forget her name now. She she went the same route too, and she did it real calm. She was just talking to her, and she's getting questions. She's like, "Well, see, this right here contradicts what you said." And she turned around and just said to the, she's like, "Mr. Director, I do."
Oh, is she the pretty one with the long dark hair?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was rewinding a lot, not just for the eye candy,
but she was,
she was really good.
Just very direct, and she said, perjury charges need to be brought because of this right now. I want it on the record right now. And just wasn't bombastic or anything. It was just, matter of fact. I saw like 2 or 3 Democrats saying directly, you need to resign. I mean, flat out. It was like, damn. And, and the Republicans weren't holding anything back. They were just in her grill. Waltz from Florida too. I love this guy. He's becoming one of my favorites because he is smart on the issues. This guy's a colonel from the Army, Rangers, no less. Okay, impressive already. But this guy's just smart, knows all of it. Did you see him take apart Daniel Dale on CNN last week?
I didn't get to watch it, but I did read some of it, and it was pretty glorious.
Oh my God. I had to go take a shower. I was that like seeing Daniel Dale. Daniel Dale wasn't there, by the way, but he completely dissembled that little Canadian runt in beautiful fashion, and just calm, straightforward. Wasn't screamer yelling, but he's like, "Listen, I got to tell you about your co-host." He was talking to Boris Sanchez. It was the second day. He had given a speech. The way it worked out, he was on the convention floor and gave a speech and was talking about how Joe Biden wants. I still can't believe this is a thing. Joe Biden wants to electrify the fleet in the military.
It is impossible to do.
He wants green EV vehicles in the middle. He wants the
tanks. He wants the Humvees. He wants tanks. Everything EV, and it's impossible to do.
How are you going to charge tanks?
Yeah, you're out in, for example, to give you a rough example, it's 2003. The 173rd is dropping in from Italy into Iraq. They're literally landing in the desert. Do you see any fucking Tesla chargers anywhere? I don't. I still don't. These people don't have chargers. Hell, they're lucky to have electricity in their houses at this point.
I'm pretty sure the enemy is going to get tipped off to our maneuvers when we start first setting up acres of sun catching arrays. When they see solar panels going up, I think the Americans are coming soon. I mean, it is just asinine. So, Mike Waltz gives a speech and he's talking about all the problems this is having. It's not going forward. They have issues with the batteries. They have issues with efficacy. This is not going to happen here. So Daniel Dale came out and fact checked Mike Waltz. Bad idea, Danny. I'm just going to, don't do it, Danny. If I was in studio, I was like, so who are you going to light up this time? Mike Waltz was like, pull back. Let's discuss this a little. Come here, Dan. Come on. Let's put a hockey game on and talk about this first. No, he goes storming out there. Not only did he think a need to correct Mike Waltz, he said definitively his speech was, quote, pure fiction, unquote. Mike Waltz, again, Colonel, Army Rangers. He's on the appropriations committees for the military. He knows this stuff up and down before he came to Washington. You're going to fact check him from your little cubicle, Daniel. Okay. And Walt sat down with Sanchez and just calmly said, let me tell you, this guy is misleading everybody. I review the Army's budget. I look over the research and development. They have testified to me directly under oath and told me that these tanks are not viable and cannot work. He said, I've read the paperwork. I've seen everything about this. It's not feasible.
This
and he
is where
said,
Mike
Daniel
Dukakis
Dale
was
should just
actually-
ask people who knows about this.
Yeah. And
you know,
and they don't. I mean, Mike Dukakis, after being in a tank, could tell these people, yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
And look, I'm not knocking Boris Sanchez. He tried to, he was cool about it too. He was like, I don't thank you for coming on and stuff, but he said, but also understand too that, fact checking is a process and we have to work through these things and it develops. He's like, okay. And Mike wasn't having it. Walsh just said, it's like, listen, I understand that part, except he came out minutes after my speech to tell me I was factually incorrect. He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't research anything. He didn't see any of the stuff we were discussing because he was wrong on all of it.
No, both he and
it.
Kessler are really, really bad at fact checking. As a matter of fact, their job is not to fact check so much as to reword things to make them look better.
They approach everything from the standpoint of narrative, not facts, not truth. I mean, I'm sure most people listening know the fact checkers are horseshit, just top to bottom. I mean, like I've always said, and I've never gotten an answer to this. If the media is doing its job and reporting on things correctly, why do you need fact checkers? And then it's like, well, because they're always out there lying. Or it's like, well, then report on it. Just report
because
the
of Fox News.
Yeah, and then
I'm
it's
telling you, most of the time,
lies and because of Republicans, and we all know that Trump lies. And shut up! Don't tell me Democrats don't lie. Democrat politicians never lie? Sorry. Okay, I watch Joe Biden on a regular basis. The Puerto Rican Irish immigrant who played flanker back after he was lifeguard duty in Cleveland and Delaware and Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania and grew up in an area where it was raining oil and he had contracted cancer and
saved his uncle from cannibalism, things like that.
I swear and when they fact check Joe Biden, they don't. Two prime examples, New York Times with Joe Biden, they have called him our storyteller in chief. Joe Biden weaves mythical tales about his past in order to connect with voters and deliver messaging that is palpable for all that kind of horseshit.
But see, that's cool a lie. So basically, he's lying in order to connect with voters, for fake empathy. And I'm like, no, you're better served. Listen, there was a politician in my hometown back in Puerto Rico. He was actually one of the good guys, and my dad was his favorite teacher, and he became the mayor of our hometown. And you know how he did it? He went door to door and he asked them, what do you want to have in your city? What do you need here to make things better for you? And he actually wrote everything down, and then he went stumping, and so he's there at the town hall, and the town hall is actually in the plaza right in front of the church. It's a very old-fashioned town. And so, he's there on a stage, and he's talking, and he actually starts taking questions. And somebody asked him, and I remember I was 16 and I was visiting that summer, and somebody asked him straight out, it's like, well, how can you say that you will do what's best for us? You haven't lived in this town in 10 years. Yeah, it's true. He hadn't, because he had been getting his law degree. And he went, I think he went to Florida to get his law degree. I believe it was either, I want to say it was University of Florida. And he said, "You're right. I don't know what's going on. I need you to help me. That's why I want to run here. I want to hear from you. I want to do things your way. You have to teach me." He won in a freaking landslide. The other guy was the one that was doing, I
Yep.
feel the same way you do. I grew up, my aunt Linda was the same way, blah, blah, blah. He was doing the whole schmear, trying to empathize with them. Whereas this other guy who had been gone for like 10 years, he literally said, "You're right. I don't know. I need you to teach me. And I want to help you get there." And that's how he convinced the entire town. He won like by 67% of the vote, which was unheard of, especially for a Democrat light, because, he wasn't the Democrat Party. He was the other party. But I don't think they'd had a Democrat light mayor in that town in about 70 years. So you can imagine.
One of the rare times a politician did something correct. But
Yeah, and for those of you who are not familiar with what I mean, in Puerto Rico, there's two major parties. There's the third one, the Green Party, which is not the Green Party here. It's the Independentistas, which are the ones that are wanting independence from Puerto Rico, from the U.S. Excuse me. The other parties are what you would call the Democrat and the Republican Party, but the Republican Party down there is not really Republican. It's just Democrat light. So over here we call them the Democrats and the Democrat light. So for when the Democrat light actually wins, it's a little bit more conservative, but not as conservative as you would think. Anyway, moving on.
no wonder so many are moving to Florida from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Red Florida, by the way.
Yes, very red.
Glenn Kessler cracks me up because was it 6 months ago, maybe last fall, he actually did a lengthy piece cataloging Joe Biden's conflict with accuracy, let's say. And I'm using that clumsy language because in this very lengthy piece where he outlined a number of instances where Joe Biden would do this, I did it in my column. I was well over a dozen euphemisms from Kessler. Like overstated facts, embellished, exaggerated,
Yes.
told inaccuracies. He just went on and on. Never once in the article does the word lie, lies, liar, or lied appear anywhere.
Which, considering the man was famous for plagiarizing everything, you would think that the word lie would come in somewhere, but it didn't.
This had to have been, I don't know, 1,500 words maybe from Kessler, and it was just detailing. It was like entry. Every one of them was a piece of bullshit from Joe Biden, and yet Kessler could never say he lied. Overestimated figures, that kind of crap. Registered incorrect dates, and you name the contortion, he used it. I mean, I think the closest he came to saying he lied was not entirely accurate. That's how pathetic they get. And it's just hilarious to watch these people resort to logic that's requiring mustard because it's so twisted. It just cracks me up so much, these idiots. And they're so blatant anymore. I saw one from CBS this weekend. Still trying to sell us on the fact that, oh my gosh, we're just so surprised about Joe Biden's condition. We've only noticed in the last couple of months that his condition was taking a slide.
Oh,
he's not appearing as the way that we envisioned him. It's like, let's see, what happened a couple months ago? Oh, the debate.
The debate.
The entirety of the country saw his complete faculty decline on full display live. Yeah, from that point on, you were completely taken by surprise, were you? This is, by the way, a White House correspondent for CBS News. Oh, in the last couple of months, this just came out of nowhere. I mean, what? Ooh.
You and I both know, and most everybody else knows, they've been complicit. They've been hiding it. They helped to hide this completely.
I am loving the way that they are just struggling with this, though. I mean, they try every way imaginable to either justify their position today. Well, we didn't report on it because, or the White House lied to us. That's the newest one.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what the problem is there? The press that has spent the last couple weeks saying, "Oh, the administration they deceived us. We feel so turned on. Oh my gosh, they just." I can't believe they lied to us like this. We trusted them, and the White House lied to us. Well, guess who was in the White House? Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm. She's been there the whole time.
If we bring up the fact that she was part of the crowd telling us, "Oh, Joe Biden is sharp,"
Which he has done.
This guy is just on point, and you should see him in meetings. Oh my God, in private, this guy's a dynamo. Really? So what happens when he walks out of the White House? Because this looks like a guy that can't handle a game of shuffleboard as he's trundling his way to Marine One. Oh, but in private. Yeah, he's a completely different. Here's an idea. This vibrant electric Joe Biden. Anybody interested in ever recording that version of him? Because
here's the thing.
Might help his image, I'm just saying.
You and I will attest to this. When we are in public, I try to be as chipper and as happy and as helpful and as vibrant, and I try to, be very active and everything. I come home, nobody's around me, I collapse and I become a vegetable. But in reality, we're supposed to believe that the opposite is true of our president? No. You cannot tell me that he's very active behind the scenes and he just keeps going and going and going like the fucking Energizer Bunny. But in public, it's like his energy has wound down like a toy. No, I refuse to believe that. That is not true. I think it's even worse when it's in private.
I'm going to have so much fun with the press, though, because I'm probably going to spend the next week or so just looking for anybody and everybody that has said, "Oh, the White House, we just feel so deceived." Huh. It's kind of hurtful, really, the way they lied to us like that. Oh, I don't feel good about it. Check. And then I can go to them and say, "Well, Kamala Harris lied about Joe Biden's condition." Well, how dare you, sir? You're the one that said it. You said White House lied to you. Kamala, White House. Ergo, she lied to us. That's the kind of fun I'm going to be having because the media is just in such a damn shambles anymore.
Well, right now, one of the things that I noticed that we are having an issue with is holding Harris to account for her past policies and all that stuff. And there are some on the right that are bringing up the fact that she basically slept her way to the top. She is the quintessential Peter Principle candidate. I mean, she really is. And she is a DEI candidate by Biden's own admission.
You probably shouldn't say Peter in reference to her.
I did that on purpose. Thank you for catching that. But there are two camps. There's a camp that says, yeah, we should throw it back in her face because if they're throwing sexual misconduct against Trump, then we should throw sexual misconduct against Harris. And I'm really on the fence about it. And I tend to lean more towards the Stephen Green at Vodka Pundit, if you don't follow him on Twitter. His style, he's like, leave it alone. The women will take care of that. And believe me, we are bitches and we will take her down on that. But the guys need to stay out of it. Because for a guy to say that, it makes it look cheap, tawdry, and you guys are just hitting below the belt. For a woman to say that, oh, we're calling out our own. That is totally different when a woman says it against another woman. We're women. We're catty. We're the violent sex. And no matter what anybody tells you, we are more violent than men. This is true. So just let the women.
Violent, I would say more.
I counsel men. Yes, but we're violent too. I'm sorry.
Men will get in a fight over anything. I mean, I've been to bars.
No, but when men get into a fight, there's a certain code. Women don't adhere to a code.
Oh, no, I know that. But for a woman to get into a fight, though, there's a lot of steps to get there. you know, and
Oh, no. A woman walks in wearing something and trying to catch another man's eye. The other woman will just say, "Hold my shit," and she'll go after her.
well,
Seriously,
okay,
no
that
words exchanged or anything. I've seen it happen, Brad. I've actually seen it happen by the pool. I'm not even kidding.
no,
But
but I've
the
I've seen
thing
guys
is,
get in fights because somebody used the other one's coaster. You know, it's like
oh
that
well,
was
yeah,
mine. It
that's
was like,
true.
well, dude, get your own coaster. That was my coaster, you son of a bitch. You know, and then you start
But
throwing.
it's a coaster, Brad. Okay.
I know.
So anyway,
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. That's all it takes sometimes for wing nuts to just start throwing bar
all,
stories.
I,
It happens.
all I'm saying is, guys, please take my advice. Don't go after Harris with the sexual thing, because it's just going to make it seem like a double standard is being said, or they're going to use it against the right. Trust me
Yeah,
when I
you're
say
not going
this.
to win that argument.
You're
Plus,
not
on
going to
top
win
of
the
that,
argument.
she's got
Women
so
will
much
take care
more
of
you
it.
could hit her with.
Yeah, she's got
There's
her
no shortage of
entire,
failure in her career.
exactly, her entire CV. You can hit that. But the whole sexual thing, let the women handle it. We
Like
will
this
handle
one,
it.
for instance.
We got
Here's
it.
anybody listening. This is a good tip off. Just let this one kind of like ping in the back of your head when you hear it. The media right now is trying to defend her by saying that the Republicans are referring to her as the border czar, and that is inaccurate. She was never the border czar. And of course, this is all defense because they don't want her accountable for the absolute fiasco that's down there.
Yeah.
The White House declared her they didn't christen her the border czar.
No, that was
Let's
done
just,
actually by journalists.
yeah, she picked up the moniker down the road. Like they
Mhm.
didn't come out with an announcement. As of today, border czar Kamala Harris. No, but they did say this. We are putting Kamala Harris in charge of the border crisis. Those are the words from the White House.
Exactly. That came
In
straight
charge,
from the White House.
and they called it the border crisis. The White House called it that.
Mm-hmm.
And from that day forward, the press and the White House denied there was ever a crisis at the border. Like you couldn't say that if you were a conservative. There's
And
no
yet,
crisis. That's not a problem.
There are several what do you call it, interviews that she did where she was asked, have you been to the border? And she says, we have been to the border, we have seen the border. And when she was pinned on it, have you been to the border? And she would say no, but I haven't been to Europe either. And I'm like, what the fuck does Europe have to do with our border? Well, now we know, because there are Europeans coming through the border too. But
this was when she sat down with Lester Holt.
mm-hmm.
And when she did go to the border, what was it? Did she go to El Paso, I want to say?
She went to El Paso or Brownsville,
Okay.
one of the two pinpoints.
Like she was way out on the western tip of Texas.
She was at one of the less, I guess, the less used ports of entry. Mm-hmm. We get maybe 12 people a month through the Brownsville port of entry, the legal port of entry.
Yeah, I mean, she was closer to New Mexico than she was to Brownsville, where like the heart of the problem is at. So she was not. She was like across the street from New Mexico. She wasn't anywhere near the heat of it.
If I recall correctly, the CBP, the chief of CBP, actually invited her to go to Del Rio sector and to Junction sector, and there are several sectors. Del Rio being the best known because Bill McGuillan usually does his reporting from there, and it's the busiest where we get most of our illegal crossings. But she said no. She's going over there. She's going to be there for 20 minutes, and then she's flying back out. I mean, she didn't stay. She did not ask any questions. She expected a full briefing, and they were like, well, what do you mean a briefing? We have an issue. We need you to come up with a plan that we can follow and institute. And she never did. So for people to say, well, she was never a border czar. Well, maybe not christened so in whitehouse.gov paperwork, but she was put in charge of the border. It's right there. If you go to the archives, it's right there. Statement from the White House.
I mean, they made the announcement. It's not me making anything
Mhm.
up. This is the White House saying we're putting her in charge, and they said it was the border crisis. So
Yes.
how
They called
how
it
did
that.
they and the press go on a 2-year stint of denying it when they put words to it? And like you said, the press christened her the czar. So it's that's how pathetic this all is. That's how desperate they all are. And literally, they cannot name an accomplishment she has done in the last 3 years. Like they'll say, "Oh, she's a big proponent of abortion rights. Oh, she was pushing for prenatal care," like this kind of thing. She's given voice to this. Okay, but what has she accomplished? She really cares a lot. This is what it comes down to. Literally, she's not done anything. But
No, she and I mean, every time that you try to pin her down on her achievements, pretty much her only achievement is alphabet soup, word salad type of thing. I mean, I just can't think of anything else. And people are trying on the left, they're trying to say, well, if you go after her on the sex thing, well, then that's just disingenuous, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, let's go after her for her policies when she was a Jew. Let's go after her for her policies when she was a senator. Let's do that. We don't even have to drag Willie Brown in here. Willie Brown will drag himself in just fine. He's already doing it. So I have absolutely no problem with that. And that's what I need to emphasize. We need to actually stick to her policies, what she was responsible for doing, and how she wrecked people's lives because of her avarice and incompetence.
Basically, the best debate line, if they end up having one, I was just going to get to that in a moment, but all you have to really say to her is show your work. Not your hypothesis and theorizing, but show us your results. And there you go. You're all set. But I've got a lot of questions as to how the debates are going to work now. Because as of last week, we had, and
we thought that it was going to be Vance versus Harris at the debate, and now it's not.
Yeah, but they had already, ABC News had already scheduled one, I think, next month for Biden Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And, I saw some guys in the press were saying, Trump is already hinting he wants to back out. He doesn't want to debate her. It's like, well, no, it was one, she hasn't been confirmed yet. Okay, this is all speculative at this point.
Right.
2, that debate was set up with Joe Biden's standards. The light bulbs can't be over 60 watts, and there has to be a certain amount of temperature in there, and no audience, and all these other crap ass requirements. Okay, I'm sure that's all off the table now.
Well,
then
honestly, week, I'll be honest. I hope there is no audience, because that's kind of distracting.
Yeah, I mean, people were complaining about that one, and I was like, it's actually kind of a good thing, because it
actually worked for both of them.
You avoid having those garbage talking points, those T-shirt slogans.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. I've known John Kennedy, and you're no John Kennedy. Whoop, whoop, yeah. It's like,
you got to admit, Lloyd Benson actually scored really big against Dan Quayle in that respect. That was a great line that he delivered.
But he was debating Dan Quayle, so
yes, exactly. and not to take away from Dan Quayle, who is a very smart individual. He just he didn't do his homework, and had he done his homework, he would have known that Benson and JFK had been friends. So that was bad. But anyway, moving on.
When Trump announced J.D. Vance was going to be VP,
mm-hmm.
It was like, I think within an hour or two, The press was all just swooning. It's like, oh my God, Kamala Harris just challenged him to a debate. Can you believe it? I mean, she's so forceful. Oh, I bet he's scared. I was like, aren't vice presidential debates normal? We see them every damn time. Look, they always happen. Oh, she challenged him to a debate. But okay. He's still filling out
it used to be
paperwork
that
right now. It's not a big deal. They're going to get around to it. Oh, but
maybe
so
I'm
forceful.
misremembering, but I seem to recall there were 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate, correct? That was pretty much the standard.
Maybe there might have been 2 VP debates, possibly. I don't. Nobody gives a rat's ass.
But nobody cares.
The vice president. Do you remember the last vice presidential debate? What was the big takeaway? What's the one thing everybody remembers? What's the only aspect of that debate anybody cared about? A fly landed on Mike Pence's head.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Whatever they debated, what issues, anything else, that fly landed, and all people said on Twitter and for the how long?
It was about the fly.
I'm still watching. It's still there. It hasn't flown away yet. This 2 minutes now. That's it. And for months after, remember the debate when the fly landed on his head? Yeah. What the hell was his name again?
Honestly, the only vice presidential debate that I recall being memorable was between Cheney and Gore. And I think it was Gore. No, it was Edwards. And the only reason that it was memorable to me was that it was at a table. So, there was one of them, each one of them was at one end of the table, and then the mediator was in the middle. And the one thing that I remember from it was that Edwards actually threw Cheney's daughter, tried throwing her under the bus for her being gay. And the moderator, I want to say it was either Chris Wallace or, I don't know, some famous newscaster, I forgot who it was, asked Dick Cheney what his rebuttal was. And Dick Cheney was very gracious and said, I want to thank, Mr. Edwards for his kind words. And that was it. That's all he said. And so the moderator was like, is that all you have to say? And Cheney looked at him and said, that's it. And move on. And for me, that was very memorable because that was the first time that I ever saw the I don't give a fuck attitude of Cheney. And I did have a lot of admiration for that. I don't particularly care for his policies or anything like that. But basically, if you crossed Cheney for any reason, he wasn't going to forgive you. And that was made evident on the floor of Congress when they were taking pictures. And somebody had said something disparaging about Cheney. And he went up to him and said, yeah, I hope you don't hold it against me. It's just politics. And Cheney looked at him straight in the face and said, fuck you, and walked away and never spoke to that guy again. It was like, that's my spirit animal.
Nice.
He really was that type of a person. Now, admittedly, his politics and mine don't clash. I mean, they clash. They do not jive together. But I could admire that kind of attitude. And that's why that particular vice presidential debate stood out in my mind, because of the way he was able to deflect Edwards during that debate. It was very well done. It was done very, very smoothly, and nobody could hold it against him because he used his niceness as not just a shield, but also as a sword. And it completely deflated Edwards. And everybody talked about how Cheney handled that particular question. Nobody remembered anything else. And that's why a lot of people are like, really? There's going to be a vice presidential debate? What's that going to be like? And I'm like, I don't know. But it's going to be good. I just hope there's no flies landing on anybody's faces again.
Yeah, I mean, a VP debate, it's like, wow. I have to watch this just so I have material. That's about it. Never in the history of general elections in our, I don't know, going back probably 3 generations, has a VP debate moved a needle. I want to say maybe when Nixon was a vice presidential tab. Maybe by then it was like, what, 50s, 60s?
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, it's, it's, you choose a vice president based on what they can do with the ballot box. You know, what swing state can they pull?
What they could bring. This is why I've been kind of leaning. I've been kind of leaning towards Shapiro because she needs to bring Pennsylvania solidly into the blue. So
no, I've heard, and this is from Democrats, mind you. She can't go with him because he's Jewish.
But she's married to a Jewish man, a practicing Jew.
Aggie, quiet. Shh. No,
this is beautiful.
No, that's the thing.
It's insane. She's married to a Jewish gentleman. The second gentleman is Jewish, and he is not a what they would call Jewish in name only. He actually does practice his faith.
He's practicing, but he's not Orthodox, so he's not Zion.
No, he's a Reformed Jew, but he still practices his faith. So
no. He's an Aries or Sagittarius or something. Yeah, you're not allowed to bring that crap up because the same thing applies to Trump. Because when they're calling him Hitler and Nazi, it's like his immediate family is Jewish.
I know. It's just
son-in-law, daughter, grandson are Jewish.
Yeah. And I believe she converted in order to marry into the faith, and
Barron was born Jewish, and it's it hasn't somehow wasn't a problem until he became a Republican.
So I just this whole Jewish thing is driving me nuts. I mean, especially now with Netanyahu's visit, and Harris uses the excuse of having a schedule that she cannot fit, so she cannot preside over his speech to Congress. But what excuse does the pro tempore actually have for skipping it? I have not seen a single excuse. I mean,
he said he's going to come out tomorrow, I think, with the explanation. Which means
Patty
you're probably
Murray
workshopping this.
Isn't it Patty Murray or?
Oh, I forget the name. I only like
the president pro tempore is the one that presides when the vice president is not able to preside. I get that it's a flimsy excuse, but she's still using it as an excuse not to preside. But that's why the president pro tempore is there to preside over it when the vice president can't. So what's the excuse for the president pro tempore not presiding over it? Nobody has said anything.
This really is significant because it gives Trump yet another campaign issue. You know, how do you abstain from this? How do you back away from meeting one of our staunchest allies? And I know people are saying on the Democrat side, because they're, so hateful and so they're attacking and they're killing Palestinians. And it's a war. Okay. And it was a war to Palestinians started, you dumbasses. It happens. But that's the problem for the Democrats is they have to worry about their base. Michigan, I think, is the key to all of this. I think that's why.
Is that why you think Whitmer is going? But Whitmer actually said she wasn't interested in the vice presidential position. So,
did she?
She came out and said she wants to stay in Michigan.
But I'm pretty sure if you dangle that in front of her, she's going to be
no, because Whitmer likes her fiefdom. She likes being in control. As vice president, she loses all of that. So I understand why Whitmer would turn that down. She does not want to play second fiddle to another woman.
Yeah, but she gets to be on TV a heck of a lot more.
Oh, she's on a book tour, pretending that it's a shark. I don't know what the hell that's about.
Really a pamphlet tour.
Yeah, it's not a very.
What is it, like 120 pages?
Maybe.
Her memoirs. Okay.
But she really, I do think she wants to stay in Michigan because she likes her little fiefdom. it's almost like what's his name? Oh God, Milton. Better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. So yeah, that's the way she sees it. That's the way she is. She likes control, and if she were VP, she would control nothing, not even the shit at the Naval Observatory. So I think this is one of the reasons why she said she is not seeking to become VP. She wants to stay in Michigan up until the last of her term, and then maybe later on, she would consider running as VP on somebody's ticket. But she A does not want to play second fiddle to Harris, and B does not want to give up any power. She likes her power. Newsom is completely different. Newsom needs to be VP because he has fucked up California so badly that he needs a way out. But that means that Harris has to give up her California residency and make DC her permanent residence in order for Newsom to be on the ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something I was noticing about 3 weeks
Because
ago.
as you recall, that's what Cheney had to do. Cheney gave up his Texas residency and became a Wyoming resident in order to be on the ticket.
Well, this is the funny part of that. The whole reason it has to do with the Electoral College, because voters, the delegates within a state cannot vote for two names from the state. So that means they would either have to vote for Harris or Newsom. All the other states are free to do so, but this is going to take away a crap ton of electoral votes then for Newsom. So
yes,
it could very well, and this is the part that cracks me up. Doing that would mean it's possible he wouldn't get enough votes for a majority, which means it gets thrown to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works in the EC, if neither presidential candidate gets a majority, it goes to the House. VP goes to the Senate. The Senate right now is comprised of 49 Republicans, 46 Democrats, and 4 independents. Basically, you could come up with a 50-50 split, and then guess what? The tie-break vote goes to Kamala.
Whatever the bitch's name is. Harris.
VPK would then vote for her own vice president. I'm curious about the constitutional rectitude of that. I haven't got an answer yet. I've asked around about it.
I honestly, as much as I love the founding fathers, and I thought they did a great job with the Constitution, there was some shit they never could foresee simply because they had no concept of telenovelas. That's why they failed.
But also, California did not exist when they were writing it, so they weren't looking for that wing nuttery to be taking place.
This is true.
They were looking more for despotism than they were for
actual despotism. True.
Granola-led left-wing hysteria. So that's just a little wrinkle. Well, you want to get away from politics a little bit?
I do.
Well, before we order another round here, why don't we get into something less vituperative?
Because I'm thinking I should have been drinking hard liquor while we were talking about this person, because it was not enough. But yes,
well, here's some uplifting news. Disneyland is being hostile towards alcoholics.
No.
They have targeted a representative figure of our kind. I got to be honest, I probably wasn't really aware of this, but
I am very familiar with it. When I went to Disney in, I think it was 1983. Yes, because my mom was pregnant with my brother. And I was 16. This was on the, we stopped there to go to Disney World before going to Puerto Rico for that summer. So I got to see it. And I remember seeing the Country Bear Jamboree. And I loved it. I fell in love with those things.
Yeah, I mean, I've
because they were
Jeez.
completely different from the shit show that you got over at Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes. Well, I'll say this: my introduction to the Country Bears predated Chuck E. Cheese by probably a few decades. So,
Well,
by the
like I
time I was at
said,
Chuck E. Cheese,
was the big place to take your date to when I was in high school.
once I saw that band come up as they lifted it, and you could hear their eyes clicking,
Mm-hmm.
like every time Chuck E. Cheese would blink, and it's like, what the hell's going on? So, yeah, the Country Bear Jamboree really set the animatronics bar pretty high. But word is that in California, Disneyland is revamping that particular ride. They're breaking it down. They're going to add some new bears to the ensemble and such. But also, in that area was a frontier land. They also had some of the Country Bears in character walking around the crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Shaking hands with people, taking pictures, glad handing, basically running for office. Well, word has come down that Liver Lips McGrowell is going to be retired from the Country Bears Jamboree. If you're not entirely familiar with such a name, this would be one of the relatively taller signs in the musical group.
I think he was the tallest one.
Could be. So
it seemed like to me.
That's yet another piece of representation that I'm not going to have any longer at Disney. You hateful, disgusting, distancing, blackballing sons of bitches. But I just love this. Disney World removes the beloved character from the park after 50 years. That's 50. Mm-hmm. Over fears that it could offend alcoholics. So, this is a bear with a longer snout, hooded eyes. It basically looks like he's tipsy, I guess.
He did look a little off. I'll admit that, but
he sort of has overalls, but with one strap. He's got a polka dot bandana over his shoulders. Basically, he was getting into the shine. Let's just say it.
Yes, he was, and we adored him for it because he still managed to be coherent and do his stint, play his guitar and everything. So nothing wrong with that.
Might be a ukulele. I'm not really sure, but the removal of, because it was offensive, and then that some were, of course, going to the length is like, well, this is actually racist. Apparently, some were suggesting that liver lips is a term used for black people. Is this a thing?
I have never heard it, and I can honestly tell you, I was 16 when I watched, the Country Bear Jamboree, and not once did I think that he was drunk. Not once did it liver lips made me think that it was a derogatory term for alcoholics. I've never even heard that. And you and I are both in our 50s. Have you ever heard that term? I took tours through Appalachia. I never heard that term.
But again, too, I'm not one that's prone to racial sensitivity, let's say.
Well, you're not, but me being Hispanic, I tend to.
Yes, I know you people are more sensitive than me.
Wow, you people, really? Oh my gosh.
See what I mean? No, it's like, that term doesn't even register with me. Why is that offensive? What's offensive about that?
But that's just it. There are terms that do register with you, and terms that just make no sense. Like this one doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh my God, you said you people. It's like, yeah, well, I'm sorry. Y'all. Is that better?
Y'all is better. I'm from the South. Y'all is better.
So apparently this bear was offensive to both alcoholics and blacks. And nobody knew this for half a century.
And which I will throw the bullshit flag on. This is the same company that pulled Song of the South years and years and years ago. Okay. And it will never see the light of day. This is the same company that has been doing this kind of crap for decades, since the 90s that I can recall.
And
Because that's
Song
when
of
I
the
worked for
South
the
has got
company.
some great songs.
Yes. Oh, the irony. They still put those in the cassettes and everything, and we get to sing them in the stores and whatnot. But we're not allowed to acknowledge where they came from.
But the thing with Song of the South was you had Uncle Remus and two
Who was a
white
good
kids
guy. Yes.
getting along. They were commingling. There was
Yes.
like the
but
kids
no,
never
that
was
this
like,
is
why is this slave singing to me? I'm sick of this, mommy. No, they were like, sing to us, Uncle
we
Remus. All
thought
right.
growing up, we thought Uncle Remus was like the coolest. He was a hero, man. He was right up there with Batman and Superman, where I came from. He was great.
Well, here's the other
And
thing.
so
That existed. Like Uncle Remus, his type, like what, minstrels of the slave people or whatever you want to call it, whatever the proper term is these days. I'm not, again, I'm sure I'm probably treading on some kind of racial tripwires here, but nonetheless.
you can just say oral historians.
Ooh, phrasing.
Oh my
This
God.
is an individual that existed, though. This kind of like Uncle Remus types were real.
Yes.
So why is representing something that actually happened bad? I mean, this is the same thing with Huck Finn Tom Sawyer, because he was commingling with a slave and they used the N-word. Well, guess what they did back in the 1880s? Spoke that way. I mean, but to this level, a drunken bear is offensive to alcoholics.
Yeah, I just, and the thing is, he doesn't even act drunk up there.
Well,
he just
I
has
wanna
heavy
know-
lidded eyes.
I literally
pretty much
want to
it.
know who the alcoholic was that claimed to be offended.
I can
me tell
honestly
you
tell
something
you,
right
no
My-
alcoholics were offended.
People, we're not bears.
No, it was
off the
a-
stage. Is not me offensive.
I can tell you who it was.
Really?
Yes, it was an American white female liberal.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It was an awful woman. I'm telling you this right now, because like I said, for decades after Disney took several steps, I mean, look what they're seriously thinking that Lady and the Tramp should not come back out because it uses a stereotype that goes against an Asian stereotype with the cats.
Wait, what? The cats were racist?
No. The cats had slanted eyes. We are Siamese, if you please, and they were.
So the
They were
Siamese cats that
trouble.
reference the Orients were depicted as Oriental. Cats?
Yes. And so it's now problematic, believe it or not. It has exacerbated so many people because they're Siamese. And I don't know if you've ever looked at a Siamese, their eyes are slanted. They do have this beautiful slant to them. It's not.
I like to call them almond shape.
Yes, it's. I mean, I love Siamese cats.
This is the same thing with
They're beautiful.
with Dumbo, because
Dumbo, that's another one because of
the
the
crows were racist
Mhm.
because they smoked cigars and had spats. I was like, wait a second, what the hell's
I
racist
was
about that? They wore spats in the 20s and cigars
Yes.
were 10 cents per or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, but
not
they're
even. They were a
blackbirds.
penny. But yeah,
Well-
they were blackbirds, so they were. They had that stereotypical.
So the
Jive
crows
gypsy
were
stuff
actually
going.
depicted biologically accurate. That's racist.
Yes.
That's the kind of horse shit that
Well, that
deal.
it. Like I said, Disney finds problems where it goes looking for them, and nobody had complained about these things until Disney complained about them. And it's the same thing here. Nobody complained about liver lips until Disney complained about it.
Well, I'll have you know that as an alcoholic, I'm offended that my representation has been stripped away from the Country Bears Jamboree.
I think you should definitely write a letter about that. Make
Oh,
sure it's known.
Tomorrow, I am going to be penning a
You should
column.
pen a column.
Dear Disney restrictive, hateful sons of bitches. As a person afflicted with alcohol addiction, happily so, mind you, I am offended that my people are no longer represented in your country. I swear to God, this is real. They're replacing him, mind you. When the revamped Bears return with new song numbers, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Little side note, the composer of this was in Jimmy Buffett's band. How about that?
I heard, yeah.
But Mr. McGrawl is going to be replaced with Romeo McGrawl, who is more of a Ursine Lothario with a blonde pompadour.
Wow.
I
Okay.
guess that's not offensive to 1950s greasers or something. I don't. This is where they're going with this horseshit, though. Like, seriously, offended alcoholics. I promise you, that does not exist. I'm probably going to do some research just so I can not even do politics for an hour. I got to research this further.
I will say this. This is probably not the most ridiculous story that you sent me today.
Well, okay. See, I my hackles went up a little bit there. I just got a little defensive because I know how much you oppose education and broadening of minds.
I do not. You suck. You know I don't.
See, proof. No. We're at a little bit of odds here because Aggie, she's got her master's degree in people, and she's a little resistant to the sciences, as I have an attraction for.
This is not about. This is about science. Yes, it's true. And I appreciate the scientific efforts done in order to study this. But I have to ask, what is the purpose? There is absolutely no purpose. I could give a shit about cuttlefish. I don't. I'm sorry. I do not give a shit about cuttlefish.
As we like to do on this show, I like to delve into the science and research aspects of life in order to broaden the minds and expand horizons of our listeners, because I care. So, researchers have been studying, as Aggie just mentioned, cuttlefish. If you're not familiar with what a cuttlefish is, it's like a streamlined octopus. You know, where octopus love to.
I just can't with you.
I'm drawing pictures here. We're in an audio medium here, so I have to.
It's as if a squid and an octopus had a baby. Why don't you just say that?
Well, I was getting to that if you would let me. Okay.
Whatever,
Listen, this is the ocean. This is my realm. You deal in digging in the dust. I've spent time on the reefs and dove with sharks and stuff.
I don't dig in dust. I dig in dirt. Get it right.
I'm sure there's a difference.
Quit flapping your liver lips and just tell a story.
Oh my God, you did not.
I did.
So the cuttlefish, I'm just going to say this, a badass squid. They're a little stouter, but they're faster. And I got to tell you right now, they've got chromophores that will knock your socks off. These guys can change color. They can do not just stripes, but mobile stripes. You ever seen that?
Yes.
Like they'll do a zebra pattern
and it's
rotating
balls
on their body. It's amazing crap. Wish I could do that. Man, the chicks I would get. So scientists have been studying cuttlefish and have come upon a curious discovery. As some background, during an event, details like what you saw, smelled, and felt aren't stored as a solitary memory in your mind. Rather, they're encoded and they're stored in your brain separately. This is in order for you to retrieve that memory, you're going to need to pull from various portions of the brain, and those pieces have to be kind of assembled back together. And when that doesn't happen in the correct fashion, your details become distorted, and you basically get the creation of false memory. Now, researchers are reporting that they have evidence that the common cuttlefish may create false memories as well.
Okay. Why would we need to know this?
I have no damn idea what the hell is going on.
Okay, this is why I object to this kind of research, because so they may have false memories, and what do we learn about this? I mean, I'm
Well, I'll
not
tell you,
a
cuttlefish
frequenter
are
of
recognized.
cuttlefish.
They are the only invertebrates possessing episodic like memories. In other words, they can remember and recall what happened to them in the past.
Again, that's great for a cuttlefish. It absolutely does not do anything for humanity. Nothing. Not a damn thing.
I'm like the hypothesis of this. Do they still do that? Is that something that still happens in research? Because like if a scientist came up and was like, no, we have a theory. We want to find out if cuttlefish have false memories. So we're going to perform an experiment.
Normally,
We're going to try and induce the false memories in the cuttlefish. And if the animals rely on reconstructive process for episodic memories, then they should be susceptible to forming false memories. Who gives money for that? Like if you heard somebody come to you with that proposal, you hang on, my checkbook's right here in my breast pocket. Let me pull that out and sign that for you. Here you go, 25 grand. Go knock yourselves out at the aquarium. Who does this? Seriously.
I just can't.
And it's like they go into it and they had these tubes and they put food in them and there's false memories. It's like, so what?
I will say this. If I went up to S.R. Haddon and proposed this, he would laugh me out of his damn airplane. And I'm sure that Jeff knows what I'm talking about.
Now,
because there is no way that man would spend money on this. And he had all the money in China.
I do have a worthwhile scientific study to bring up, however, and I defy you to come up with a problem with this one. Scientists are looking for a novel way to recycle toxic waste and extract gold from old electronic units at the same time. So basically, they want a healthy way to maybe repurpose old electronics. And in the process, if you can pull some gold out of these sons of bitches, we'll do that too on the side.
Okay.
So in Switzerland,
this is cool.
They have a press release. They're using denatured proteins to create a sponge to recover gold ions from electronic waste. So what they do is they place this metal. They basically take this sponge that they've created into a metal ion solution, and the gold flakes then adhere to the protein fibers in this manufactured sponge. Then they heat up that sponge and obtain a couple 100 milligrams of gold from motherboards and stuff like this. That protein comes from cheese. So they go to the cheese making process and take denatured whey proteins and use them to pull gold out of old cell phones and computer boards.
Interesting.
Science is amazing.
Well, I think that in this case, size is amazing because you're taking, as I understand it, it's not actual cheese, but a byproduct of cheese making in order to make
the curds and whey.
So it's the whey that they're taking, and they make a sponge-like thing, and when it electrifies, the gold actually attaches to it, as I understand it. So they're actually taking a byproduct that we would have dumped out and using it to get gold out of these, I guess trash, because that's what it is. It's ingenious, actually. This kind of stuff, S.R. Haddon would pay for, but he would not pay for this cuttlefish shit. He wouldn't. So I'm just saying.
We're taking electronic garbage and using food garbage to extract gold from the garbage.
But this it opens the possibilities of, hey, if you can do that with gold, you can also extract the lead, and you can extract the other minerals that can't, mercury, for example, that can be toxic, and take those out of the trash. Because nobody pays attention to me when I tell them, hey, the easiest way for you to get rid of trash is just to throw it into a volcano. Nobody ever believes me. And yet it is scientifically proven.
I like how you said that's the easiest way.
It is the easiest way. Do you have any idea how many active volcanoes there are in the world?
Do you have any idea how close they are to me?
I'm just saying. We pretty much have when it comes to recycling and trash, we have it pretty much under control. But there are several countries, mostly the countries in third world and second world tiers, that do not, and they do reside in the Ring of Fire, so they can take advantage of it, and they don't. And I'm just saying, it's right there. There's a fucking volcano. Just throw your shit in there and you'll be done. Easy peasy.
I'm almost positive somebody's going to complain about the fumes to come out of the volcano will feed the atmospheric.
But that's just it. The fumes that do come out of the volcano are bad, but they're naturally bad. It's what happens in the world. It's nature. That's what happens. But when you throw this stuff in there, the fumes that come out are not caused by the stuff that's actually being broken down by the lava or the magma in the case.
Volcanoes is how I came to the realization that this whole global warming thing is horseshit.
It's complete and absolute horseshit.
Because they spent years telling us, oh, we're killing the planet. Here's all the fumes that we're expelling in the planet on an annual basis and feeding the ozone depletion. Like the New York Times had an article that said, globally, mankind produces, I don't know, so many metric tons of CO2, blah, 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 all of this, we're killing the planet. And then in National Geographic, they were studying the volcano in Montserrat, the one that Jimmy Buffett sang about.
Yes.
Coming full circle. They were studying
full circle.
an eruption there, and they were logging the gases that were being expelled. And I was like, wait a second. They were listing them off. I was like, I was told those were bad.
Mm-hmm.
CO2, chlorine gas, chlorofluorocarbons. These are all generated by a volcano. I was like, okay, ding. And now I'm like paying attention. And later on, they're like, and so they measured the metric. One explosion from a volcano expelled more of these poisonous, quote unquote, gases than mankind does in an entire year.
Wow.
I'm sorry, but that's nature. And then, of course, I did my research and found, there's like 17 dozen active volcanoes right now. Hey, what about geothermal vents in the ocean? That's 70%. Oh, look at that. There's even more. Wow. If my calculations are correct, we are going to die about 10 million years ago.
Well, it's really funny because we were speaking about volcanoes today. Sometimes friend of the chat, he rarely comes on. He's in Great Britain, but he has made a stopover on Spirited Books. His name is Oscar V. Roenthal. I'll put his in the chat. He's a great follow, by the way. He actually spoke about the fact that the airport in Sicily had to shut down because Mount Etna was erupting. And he was like, why do they build an airport next to an active volcano?
Yeah.
And my answer was carbon offsets, because that's all I could think of. But they're not the only ones. I mean, Iceland did too. And I believe there's one in Java that's pretty much next to a volcano. And if I recall correctly, when I went to Hilo in the Big Island, yeah, Kilauea is pretty close. So I'm like, what is it with people putting airports near a volcano?
You
So
see,
there
when
you
the
go.
hot air rises, that gives you like a geothermal jet stream that you could ride, and it's kind of like when dolphins are riding off the bow of a boat. Speculating here. Don't hold me to it. I haven't worked at Boeing. I'm full disclosure.
Well, me neither. But my daughter might work for Lockheed Martin, so you never know. Anyway.
But I got into one of these global warming discussions a while back, and I brought up this volcano thing, and somebody was like, I knew you were going to go there. It was like, oh, I'm sorry. Was I basing stuff on science? I apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bring science kicking and screaming into this conversation.
And then they tell me those gases that man produces are poisonous. The naturally occurring exact same gases are good. So my carbon dioxide is bad, but the one from a volcano is not bad. Is that what we're doing?
This is what I don't understand. The methane, the noxious gases that come out of volcanic eruptions it's incredible, but that's okay. It's my cow that's an issue. And I say that loosely because, Bessie comes to visit me every so often. So I consider her my cow.
Well, the earth wants that gas, but our gas is bad and it's extra, and that's bad because it's ours.
It takes an enormous amount of arrogance to think that humanity can actually destroy this planet.
Okay, Michael really Crichton, keep it to yourself.
I'm just saying. I'm astounded by the amount of arrogance that is involved in this whole climate.
That's actually his prologue to Jurassic Park.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's quoting somebody, but like for a couple paragraphs, he was saying like,
but it's true.
It's absolute hubris for mankind to think that they can ruin a planet that's been here for billions of years, and we've been here
and gone through several global killers. I mean, it's just like, I think this planet's going to die when it's ready to die, and we are just little ants in an anthill.
I was just watching. I'm in the middle of one actually on Netflix, one of the nature shows, one of the Our World one of the Attenborough affiliated ones. But they're talking about all these creatures from the past and all these different epochs, and like there's been 4 mass extinctions, but they're telling us now any animal that's extinct now, like this little 2-inch newt in New Guinea, dies off, then I don't know, our corn crops are going to collapse somehow or something. It's like, I'm not like pro killing animals, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I'm not in a panic state about this.
I'm okay with tasty murder. I'm just saying.
Every time you order a pizza to be delivered, you're killing a 3-eyed newt in the Amazon.
Then it shouldn't have been in the Amazon in the first place.
Okay, can he deliver a pizza maybe? Is that better? What is it going to take for me to eat tonight is my question, because I'm sorry, I got to starve in order for some animal I've never met to survive. Huh?
I think one of the biggest things that really grated on my nerves, and I used to be a big advocate of it until I learned the science behind it, was the virgin forest theory, and how there's so few virgin forests left. And I'm like, technically there should be none, because forests need to renew themselves. They need to burn down and renew. I mean, it's just part of nature. It has to happen. So if they're very few, then those forests are not doing their job. Okay, they're not. They're failing the earth. And people don't see it that way until I actually, explain why it is that a forest has to renew itself. And then they're like, so why are virgin forests important? I said, because they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my goodness, okay.
Well, the other one too is when they were talking about, well, in order to combat this, we need to get more trees in order to absorb the CO2. And then somebody noted, it's like, well, in North America, we actually have more trees than we did at the founding of the country, because guess what? Timber companies, they need timber. So what do? Those
Plant
rapscallions, they plant trees, like a shit ton of them.
So that's
they'll
why,
cut
Texas A&M is famous for their bonfire, and the trees are always donated from a local ranch or farm or lumber area or whatever. But for every tree that we harvest, we're responsible for planting not one, but 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are more trees in College Station now than during the founding of the actual college.
Yeah, it's the same in the Pacific Northwest. Like, it was a few decades ago, somebody did a tree census.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds ridiculous, but that's actually what they called it.
No, they do. That's exactly what it is.
And they counted that we have more trees now than we did in 1776. And this floored a lot of people. Are like, wait, that can't be, because they were telling. Well, the environmental groups heard this and got mad.
Of course they did.
They had to concoct this explanation. Well, this is actually not good news, because then it creates a monocultural forest area. It's not enough plant diversity where these are taking place.
They're never satisfied.
Hold on. You just said you wanted more trees or we're going to die. And we just said, oh, guess what? We do have more trees. Now they're bad trees.
Mm-hmm.
So go tell your story walking, because you're never going to be happy, you son of a bitch. This is what I'm sick of with them. It's like, this has to be a thing. Oh, it's not a thing. Well, that's the worst possible result. And it's the same thing with honeybees. I've been hearing about how a honeybee collapse has been a thing for like a decade. I've seen like 2 news reports now in the last couple of months. We have more honeybees now than we did 50 years ago.
But everything is cyclical.
But something's wrong about that. Well, this is emblematic of the warming is creating an environment which you just said we needed bees for our food. We got more bees than we ever had before. Well, there's a problem. Sons of bitches.
So that was the problem.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap for the sake of Rick.
Yeah, we should, because it's like 15 after. So
give him his life back and all that stuff. So.
I know. All right, Brad. You know the drill. Take a deep breath and tell us where we can find you.
I am available over at townhall.com. I've got a daily media column there called Rift from the Headlines, where I tear into our journalism ass faces in our industry. Also at the front page of Red State, covering politics, entertainment, culture, a number of other things. And I've got my twice weekly podcast there called Liable Sources, delving even deeper into the muck and mire of the mainstream media. And you can hear me more on this network. Thursday night, I'm going to be here with Ordy Packard. He and I are going to guide you through all of the vital and important entertainment information and news on the culture shift. Alternate Thursdays, it's myself and Paul Young from ScreenRant.com as we usher you through the dark, dingy alleyways and dumpsters of Hollywood with bad movies on disasters in the making. And of course, every Tuesday evening with the ever-effervescent Aggie Rican on this show.
Similar.
And then if you need more of me than that, and let's face it, you do, if you head over to Jitter, I am at Martini Shark. And what about you, Aggie? Where can people find more of your magnificence?
Well, you can find me at Aggie Rican and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, doing the Cocktail Lounge with the Ever Suave You. Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, doing He Said, She Said with our awesome producer, Rick. Last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern, the guys get together for Toxic Masculinity, and that's Rick, G, Ordy, and Andrew. And They host a Babe of the Month, and I bring the drink of the evening. And last but not least, Jeff and I have teamed up, and now we have a book podcast. The first Monday of every month, Spirited Books is on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and we talk about the most obscure books that we can find and give you a review, and it's a lot of fun. Y'all should tune in for that one. The next one is coming up, not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you all have a lovely evening.
Now go raise a glass and look at the ceiling.
Nobody wants to see their dust bunnies up there. Stop making them do that.
It's all about home improvement, Rick.